Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to your side quest contact. Now that we have finished the Make an Adventure series, we have a good, solid adventure that we can present to our players. Excuse me. We're gonna have a sort of another series of discussions about actually running the game, and these discussions are not really game specific. They're just kind of general points and tips that I have acquired throughout my time doing this. And I want to preface to say that these are things that have worked for me. These are not, the only way to do things. This isn't the right way, implying that other ways of doing things are wrong. These are just ways that have worked for me. And if they worked for me, hey, maybe they'll work for you too. Now, what we're going to do kind of like we did with the Let's Make It Adventure. We're going to start at the beginning, right? Start at the very beginning and kind of work our way through as we're getting ready to set up a game, run a game, going through the game, and cover several topics of that that I've had some experience with, and maybe can help you out as well. So if we're going to start at the beginning, we got to think about three things. And now these three things don't really have to come in any specific order, but we want to think about three things. We got to find players, we got to think about scheduling, and we got to choose what game we're going to run. Now, finding players, that's not really that difficult. Usually, if you're into this hobby, you have other friends who are into this hobby, you can reach out to them. I have also found that if you have a local adventurers guild, adventurers league, D&D adventurers league, the one I've gone to, they post on Meetup, so Meetup's a good spot. Discord's a good spot. There's lots of good groups out there where you can reach out, and there, because there are a lot of players and players want to play. So it seems like, from my perspective, there are more players than people running games, so it shouldn't be that hard to find a group of players. The next challenge comes in scheduling. Now, depending on your age bracket, this challenge is easier or difficult. Back in the college days, it was super simple to grab a group of people together, meet at someone's apartment anytime we wanted, and just play until the sun rose. That's not that's not really viable in for me now. So scheduling, most of the people I play with are adults, so they got their own lives, they got their own things, families, jobs, they got their own lives going on. So trying to wrap up, trying to kind of gather them into a single time frame can be a challenge, just depending on what's going on and the particular age bracket of your player group. Now, and then choosing a game. We're going to get more into that here in a little bit. So for scheduling and choosing a game, let's kind of look at those two together for a second, because there's maybe two ways to go about it. One way I've tried in the past is, what do you all want to do? What is your schedule like? And trying to find common threads to go on. Okay, so it looks like everyone's available on Wednesday through seven to nine. Okay, that's when we'll play. It looks like everyone wants to play D&D. They want to play. So trying to do the game that way. But honestly, that kind of it kind of it's not very productive, because players most of the time, what they'll say is, well, I want to play this game, but I'm really open to anything. And then everyone starts saying that, oh, I'd like to do this, but I'm really open to anything. And so no one really wants to commit. And also scheduling, it's also in a similar way, it's kind of hard to get people wrangled. Now, so what I've decided, the best way to go is, as far as like is like the scheduling. I decide when I'm available, and that's when I send out. That's what I send out. Hey, who wants to play a game on this night, on this day? This is when I'm available. This is when I'm running. Those who are available will, say me. Those aren't will say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, and that's okay. That way, you've got a firm date. I'm going to start running. Just for example, I'm going to start running a game Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on my virtual tabletop. Who wants to play that game? Who's available that night? And choosing the game kind of the same way. asking players what they want to play. A lot of times there's a lot, players, there's a lot of things they want to do, right? And there's so much variety that it might be best just to kind of maybe get a feel and maybe put a couple ideas out to them. Hey, I'm thinking about running this game or I'm and this game, and I have this idea as well. What do y'all think about these three ideas? And then that way they're just picking between three things that you've already thought about, that you've already kind of maybe I'm going to, started planning ahead. Do you like option A? Do you like option B? Do you like option C? Group of players, which one do you like best? And then, that way they have a more focused thing to choose. That theme also goes with running the games, like big open sandbox where the players have just total free open will, and a lot of times they don't know what to do. Like, okay, what do you want to do? I don't know what's going on. They're waiting for something to happen for to react to. So finding our group of players, scheduling, right? Just go ahead and decide. So let's look, finding great players, your own circle of friends. I have found that Discord is helpful, Meetup, Adventurers Guilds, or Adventurers Leagues. And again, for scheduling, you decide when you're available. Those who are also available will play. Those who aren't will sit that one out, and that's okay. We're all busy. Now, choosing the game. Now, this is a lot of this is going to come from you, right? Because you're running the game, and the best games are the games, in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion, my experience. The best games are the games that the DM wants to run, that the DM is excited about running, because that's the game that there's going to be more effort, there's going to be more energy, because the DM wants to do it. So when you're running a game that you don't really want to run, it's just kind of like, okay, it's just very minimal effort, right? So go ahead and pick something that you want to run. That way you can get excited about it. You can put your effort and energy into it, and then the players will thereby enjoy it more. So what do we want to run? Like that's a big question in and of itself. What kind of game do we want to run? Now, obviously, we spent the last, series. I got the live games, the recorded games going on for D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. But there's a lot of other games out there. There's a lot of other games in the fantasy region, the fantasy genre as well. You also got sci-fi. You got, horror. You got urban. You got superhero. There's so many different things that you can choose to do. So I want to go over, some of the ones that I've gone through and that I like, just to kind of point out different themes, point out different things, to kind of get our minds thinking of what do we want to run. Now D&D, obviously that's the big one, right? That's the big fantasy one right now. There are other fantasy games if you're interested in exploring those. Pathfinder is pretty good, I hear. I don't really know a lot of them because most of my energy goes into to D&D. But if you're wanting to think outside of fantasy, some of the ones I've gone through and that are pretty fun. So sci-fi is cool. Transformers. I picked this up on after I saw the hardback in a hobby store. But since I do most of my stuff digital, I went home and just went to the website and picked it up, bought it digitally, and yeah, it's fun. The mechanics are very similar to D&D. It's like a five. It's sort of like a 5e mechanic, and but instead of a proficiency bonus, each skill has a die, like a D4 or a D2, D4, D6, D8, and the better you get, the higher, the bigger die you get to roll with your D20. So instead of just adding like a flat 3 or a flat 4 to like an attack, you roll your d20 and then the other die on how well you are, on how well you can attack. Up to a d12, like it goes all the way up to d12. There's a lot of we had some really cool fight scenes, a lot of space travel. This is going to be a wide-ranging game. Moving from planet to planet probably. Your characters are like because they're transformers, right? They can transform into vehicles that can move great distances. Someone can even go into space. Oh, one of the other things I remember liking about this game was for like hit points and damage. You didn't have like a ton of hit points, but weapons didn't do like a lot of damage. Like a minor weapon would do like one damage. A slightly bigger weapon would do two, and a huge weapon would do three. So if you got hit with three, that was a big deal. And you chose what kind of bot, what kind of thing you wanted to transform into, like a v, most of it's vehicles. And going along the sci-fi route, there's other options in other games I've run. Star Trek Adventures, that was pretty cool. We ran a game with this. Now, obviously, yeah, you're in space, right? Spaceships and space combat and that sort of thing. Now, the way the game is set up, it you can like play something outside of like a standard Starfleet crew, but the game's really set up to play that. You're a member of a Starfleet crew. But one of the nice things about it is like it's set up so that you can choose like your era. Like if you're going all the way back to the original series, Kirk in the days, up to the next generation, even further beyond. Now, when you're dealing with a game that involves like rank and officers, right? That's something you got to be careful with because players don't want to take orders from other players. Actually, players don't want to take orders. So the way I set this up with is we had all the players were at the rank of lieutenant commander. They were the head of their specific department, and the captain was an NPC. But we kind of set a rule, right? That whatever you the players are deciding to do, that's what the captain is ordering you to do. As long as you're staying on mission and you're not doing something totally crazy, whatever it is you want to do is what the captain's ordering you to do anyway. So we made lieutenant commander level characters, and for this game, it's actually kind of good to have like a second group of player characters, lower level characters who can go down on away team missions. Because unlike what the how the shows show it, high-ranking officers shouldn't be putting themselves in, combative situations on the surface of a planet. That's what the lower level officers are for. I'm, and the game system, it is for my experience a little convoluted. I wound up kind of like shaving off a lot of the rules, a lot of the stuff, and I just wanted to boil it down to a few roles. But there's a lot involved with the combat and such, so I found a way to kind of just make it a little more streamlined. Now, a theme with sci-fi and these grand types of games is travel, right? Being able to travel vast distances, light speed travel, and such. And then moving on to sci-fi. Now, the Star Wars is good because I always like Star Wars. This is an older edition, and this resembles old like D&D third edition, the D20 system back in the day. And I know there's a more up-to-date edition of Star Wars. I just haven't played it or looked at it yet. But Star Wars is cool because here you can mix sci-fi and fantasy magic. You got the Force, right? And this is very another game that's very set up similar to D&D. Like you pick a species, you pick a class, you have your abilities that are the same: strength, X, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. And I think the recent game I ran of these were yeah, we decided to go evil. We played like back in the ancient Sith days, the Sith Empire, and they were agents of that empire. And that's something we're going to talk about in one of our episodes is evil player characters. How do we deal with that? In other words, to kind of give you a preview, you got to be prepared, right? Say, okay, this is something we're all agreeing to do. We're going to be a group of evil people who can do evil things, and then draw some boundaries. And again, we got spaceships, great distance, space combat. Here we got, the lightsaber duels. Those are always cool. Lightsaber dueling, force skills and such. Now, moving beyond fantasy, we can kind of go more into some games I've run are more horror based. Not like horror as in, well, yeah, yeah, horror. Vampire the Masquerade. This is one of my favorites actually. Outside of the D&D genre, and this is where the player characters are vampires. The setting, generally speaking, the setting is a modern city, and in this modern city, yeah, it's essentially ruled by vampires. They hide in the shadows. They maintain this law called the Masquerade, so that way, because they realize should mortals ever become aware of their existence, there's so many more mortals than there are vampires, and that whole sunlight thing is a real bad thing for the vampires. Like only the most powerful vampires can even hope to resist a little bit of sunlight, and even then they gotta find shelter quickly. It's not like they're just hanging out during the day for fun. It's like, oh no, the sun's up. Let me find a spot quickly. But younger vampires, as soon as that sun comes up, if they're not protected, if they're not somewhere, it's going to be a bad day for them. And a lot of this involves like intrigue, politics, control, manipulation. Vampires themselves don't really want to get into a physical fight because they're risking eternity essentially. From like their perspective, like think if a human dies, then what is being lost? About maybe 20, 30, 40 years of existence. 50 years, 60 if they died young, and so maybe 60 years they're losing. But when a vampire perishes, they're losing eternity, because as long as they don't get killed again, they'll remain around forever. So they're not really interested. And so a lot of this is like backroom deals, manipulating, scheming, backstabbing, this type of game, and then sometimes it does evolve into a fight. But even then, the players got to be careful because if they're using their vampiric powers like in a very public, showy manner, well, the prince of the city, like, hey, that's you're violating our masquerade, and that's never a good thing. Moving on, horror, I've run Alien. Alien's pretty cool. Alien monsters. Again, you have ships. You're in space. And there are some pretty okay rules for space combat in here. But obviously, the main theme of Alien is the aliens, the xenomorphs. And I think I remember a pretty decent like stress system, because this is one of the hallmarks of a horror game is like stress, and this might actually be a game where I would be more prone to like resource management. Like it's in a standard D&D game, I'm not expecting you to count your arrows, but maybe in a game where you're trapped on a ship, you can't resupply, you do have limited ammo, and these aliens are running around, then yeah, that might be a good time to track resources, because once those resources are out, and the players steadily seeing those resources decline adds stress to the scene, which is what you want in a horror based game. You want stress. Yeah, combat and panic. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and I particularly remember the xenomorph monsters being really nasty. Obviously. So yeah, as we can see, there's a variety of games, a variety of options that you can choose, and what think about what inspires you? What is there an era of history? Is there a particular movie, a particular novel, something that really gets your mind going? And if so, like focus on that. Kind of build your game around that. Sci-fi, fantasy, urban, modern, whatever it is, whatever theme you want to go, you can still kind of, what excites you, what inspires you, because if you're working on something that you're excited about and that you're inspired by, that's going to translate to a really good time for your players. The story's going to be engaged because you're there, you're excited, you're presenting the story and the adventure, and the players will pick up on that. All right, so I think that's a kind of a good first, start, right? Let's take a quick review. We talked about finding players, scheduling, choosing the game, where to find players, and again with scheduling, just go ahead and decide when you are available, and and then go from there. Those players who are available at the same time will be able to play, and those can't, well then maybe they'll be able to play next time. Choose the game that you want to run, something that inspires your creativity and your excitement. And then in the next sessions, we'll kind of move on, like, getting into the game, setting up characters, session zeros, and that sort of thing. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and I appreciate you hanging out with me as we talk about this. I hope you enjoy a great weekend. Have a safe New Year's, and we'll see y'all next time. Take care.